Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you this fun ink swipe technique using the Loveliest Tree Bundle of products. So let me set this aside and I'll show you how to get started. Okay, for this technique, because I'm doing a fall card, I'm going to use a number of colors. I'm going to start with the lightest color and move my way through the darker colors. So I'm going to take my ink pad and I'm simply going to randomly touch it onto my cardstock like so. I'm swiping the ink pad against it, and I can use different parts of the ink pad to give me a different look. So that was my peach pie. I'm going to move to the timid tiger at this point and just kind of randomly move it around my cardstock. Old olive is going to come next, and I'm going to plop that around my cardstock. And then for the last swipe, I'm going to use the cherry cobbler, and really the end without the little groove here is better to use. You'll get a better coverage in a swipe. So I've got that done, and I can move those to a side, and then I'm going to bring in my darling duckling. Now I'm going to open this ink pad, and I'm going to fill in those areas where I didn't have any color, giving it a subtle background shade and making that gold really strong for my leaves. There you go. I've got the darling duckling done. I'm ready to close my ink pads and start working on my project. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is bring in my cardstock, and I am going to stamp my tree onto a piece of Very Vanilla. I'm going to ink this up with my early espresso and stamp. Now I'm going to be die cutting this out, so I want that where I can easily go around things. And then I'm going to decide where I'm going to put my stamped image on my trees. And I think I'm going to put it over here. So I'm going to bring in that ink pad again, ink it up, and stamp it right down here on the bottom of this technique panel that I made. There we go. And then I'm going to bring in my sentiment. I'm going to ink up my happy birthday and stamp it right here in the center. And then I'm going to bring in my crushed curry, and I'm going to ink up those little leaves, and I'm simply going to stamp them, let's see, to the left of that sentiment like so. I've got that finished, and I'm ready to die cut. Now I'm going to die cut both these trees out, and then we'll assemble the card. Okay, I've got all my pieces and I'm ready to start assembling. So I'm going to bring in my die cut trees here, and I am going to take my paper snips, and I'm going to simply kind of round this off where I want to add the glory of the beautiful leaves to the top of the tree, and I'm going to adhere this down. That gives me my tree trunk showing and these beautiful colors from the technique. There we go. I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to bring in my designer series paper. Now I've got these two pieces of designer series paper cut, and I'm going to kind of angle them onto my panel here, giving them kind of a edge that's at an angle. So I'm going to add some adhesive here on the one edge, and then I'm going to add it like so on to my cardstock. And I put my finger here so I know where I want to set that, and I'm going to swing it until I'm happy and then lay that down. Remember, my adhesive is on this edge and then on the cardstock edge. Now that I have that done, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to do this second piece of paper on this other edge. Now I want to make sure I've got the cardstock covered, so I need to be able to swing this in such a way that I do that. Let's see, I'm going to do that like this. I'm going to put that finger down again, flip this over, do the one edge, and then I'm going to bring my adhesive in and do that corner. Line that back up, swing as I desire, making sure I hit that corner, and then I'm going to swing it a little bit more and adhere. Now at this point I've got my designer series paper on here, and I can bring my paper snips in and simply follow the edge of the cardstock to trim that. And I've got that fun little angled edge on the two corners of my cardstock. So I'm going to bring in my card base, fold it on the score line, and adhere this down. And then I'm going to bring in my matte and my very vanilla, and I'm going to adhere those together. This will give me my palette for my tree. I'm going to flip that over, bring in my dimensionals and add some to the back. And while I have some, I'm going to add them to the back of my tree. And I'm going to grab a mini here to put on the bottom of the tree trunk like so. I'm going to start by removing my dimensionals on both panels. And I'm going to flip this first one over, and I am going to adhere it right to the center of my card front. And then I'm going to take my tree and I'm going to place it right in the center of my panel here. And of course, at this point, I can adhere or place this on the inside, whichever is your preference, like so. The last thing I'm going to do with my card is bring in these lovely muted palette dots. They come in 4 colors, one of which is the Mossy Meadow. So I'm going to pick up a Mossy Meadow here, and I'm going to set it, let's see, right down here in the corner. And then I'm going to pick up a small one, place it over here to the left, and I think another large one I'm going to place right up here. There we go, just for a little bit of shine on our card and pulling that Mossy Meadow onto the designer series paper and image. So there you go, a quick and easy ink swipe technique to create this lovely autumn card. And of course, if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.